Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to work on one of those reels that came from the flea market finds, and actually I got a quick request from Francisco, who's a friend from France that wants to know how to recondition the 150. So I have a 150. If you remember from the flea market finds video, it had a broken side plate, and I was able to find a side plate. Actually, it's a brand new one in one of my parts bins, and we're going to show you how to take this apart, how to build it from the ground up, and how to restore it. What we're also going to do here is in that parts bin I found some used but better looking chrome pieces than we have here. So basically we're going to recondition this reel. We'll replace the chrome pieces. They won't be new, but they'll be closer to the original, and we'll show you how to do that. Now Francisco also had a question which I can't demonstrate on this reel because it's broken, but he wants to know how to get the side plate off so that he could go replace the drag washers. So here's the quick trick on that, and then we'll come back. I'll build the frame with the new chrome parts, and then we'll go do that after a break. But Francisco, you take this side plate screw off. Sometimes it gets stuck in there pretty hard, and this one being what it is stuck. I'm going to use the pliers. Usually you can use your fingers, and once you get that going there, you should be able to feel it or see it where it's through there. And then you pull the button out, just like that. It's on a spring. Pull it out, take the handle, and then reverse your direction about a quarter of a turn, and that's it. So now you have the side plate off, and now we have access to the bridge. This bridge is actually in nice condition given that the rest of it is pretty weak. Remember this one from the video, it has a chipped spool here and it has a broken back side plate. I actually have a side plate for this too, so we'll go ahead and go fix that on a subsequent effort. But for now, that's how you do it. So one more time, just real quickly, so you know. This is screwed in, so you unscrew, grab the handle, pulling out the screw, quarter of a turn, there you go. Okay, we're going to pause the video here. When I come back, I'm going to build a frame using the replacement chrome parts. Then we'll take this apart off, and I'll show you how to rebuild that side plate. So as you can see, there's been quite a transformation that's been done off camera here. I was able to take the side plates off, replace them with some moderately used chrome. I did mention earlier I had a new side plate for the non-handle side, and I also have a new side plate for the handle side. So I decided what I was going to do is take the side plate that was on that reel, and if you remember from the flea market finds, we had a SurfMaster that's working, but it has a broken side plate. So I'm going to use the one from that reel here, and that way I can keep relatively two new side plates and good looking chrome on the 150 that we're working on right now. So the last part that we need to do here then is to show you how to switch off or how to service the 150. Now this one had the handle on it. I took that off. I tried to clean that up. I'm going to go with the original handle on this one. I'm not going to try and go with a replacement that might have some brighter chrome. This is the period correct torpedo handle and the Bakelite, so I'm going to leave that as that is. So what we want to do is take that handle off, and again this has the broken side plate chip here, and there's nothing you can do about that. You could have put a screw in there and continued to fish this, but for the sake of this video, as well as getting this one back to fishing properly, we're going to go ahead and do that. We also mentioned that the reverse eccentric here is the handle thing has been reversed here, but we're going to take all of that off anyway. Here's your side plate, complete with dust, but down to its bare elements. And we're going to start by just taking the pieces off one, putting them on the other. So this is a star adjuster that comes with the reel, and I found one that's a little bit cleaner in my parts bin. So we're going to discard that one, but we will note how that came out. And you need the one that has the deep cut in it. There's two types of star adjusters. There's one that has the inset cut here. And then there's the one that has the flat bottom. In this case, you want the one that has the indented one, because the sleeve here is deeper than the sleeve on the others. And you'll see the drag washer ferrule from the gear sleeve is actually inset in that. So if you tried to put the flat one in, that wouldn't work. Okay, 4 bridge screws. Go ahead and take those off. We can bring the bridge out. And now I'm using my pouch tray. A couple of other things you'll notice as I'm doing this, I have a glove on my hand to keep all the old dirt and grime and the like out of there. You'll notice as well, I notice, you should, the screws on the bottom are different than the screws on the top. The bottom screws are fully threaded, and the screws on the top have a partial thread, so remember that when you go to put this reel back together. I always encourage folks to take pictures along the way at critical points, so that if they get lost, or if they're trying to figure out how one thing works versus another, you can go back and reference the pictures. And of course I'm doing that here with the video. Alright, I've just pushed the bridge sleeve through. This one should have a flat spring. By looking at the bridge here, I have a little post where that flat spring is going to ride against. So I'm pushing out and I'm hoping to hold that flat spring so I don't lose it. And here's that flat spring right here. And almost lost. Alright, here's your bridge assembly and your dog. We're going to make sure we clean all of this up. There is a lot of dirt and grime on it, so we'll make sure as we go to transfer the pieces and the parts over that we have this done properly. And that dog looks pretty worn there. So I'm going to pull off the sleeves, set that aside, take the hard washer off. And as I clean these up, I'm going to put these pieces into the bucket, just so that I don't lose them. A good thing to clean the metal parts with is very light steel wool. In this case, this is just a 4-0 steel wool. It's nothing, it's the finest it can be. You can use some metal polish if you like. The discoloration doesn't matter much. And actually, I have a gear sleeve that is a whole lot better than that. So I'm just going to go grab a replacement. As we mentioned with the other pieces, there's sometimes it's a boneyard here. I have some reels that have broken over time, and if you like, go ahead and just replace that. That's the wrong gear sleeve. That should work. Okay, I'm going to just probably discard that one as well. Even though I save these, chances are that I'm not going to use them again, so after a time you're just collecting junk. And while I'm in here, I'm looking at the dogs. There is some wear on that other dog. If I have to, we can use it. But if I can replace it, I will as well. And I'm sorry I'm off camera with this for the moment. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that matches up to that at the moment. Okay, not a problem. Put the parts back here. We're going to put that gear sleeve in here then. Now we're going to pull off the gear shaft piece. That comes by poking out a little pin that holds that in here. Now, Francisco, I know you had mentioned that you want to change out the drag washers, and we'll show you how to do that. But as long as you have this all out, you might as well pull the sleeve off and do the cleaning inside and behind. You can see that there's a lot of old grease here, and we're going to go ahead and take that off. I'm going to try first with a paper towel to get as much of that off as I can. If I just go right to my steel wool, it just clogs the steel wool. I'm also going to use a little bit of a penetrating oil just to loosen that a little bit. Again, I'll go back to the paper towel first. Now, this is a chromed metal bridge, so most of that stuff should come off. It's a high quality bridge, so you shouldn't have a lot of stuff Now I'm going to use the steel wool just to get that last stubborn piece off there. And if you do that, that's going to help the anti-reverse function easier. And dirt is the enemy of a reel, so there's no sense not doing this if you're going to go take the time to take the reel apart. Okay, we've got the bridge off. There's just a little bit of stuff in there, so I'm going to grab a Q-tip and just run it through to make sure we're clean there. The threads are all clean. We've got the grease off from before. We can go ahead and reinstall this. It's a simple matter. You just take the bridge. We're going to just put a little bit of grease on it. Just looking for a screwdriver. Just a little light coating. You don't want too much in there. It'll clog that channel. But just enough to give it the free turn. When we reverse the process, going to grab that pin. Set the pin into the hole there. Sometimes easier said than done. But it came out of there, so it's got to go back in there. There we go. And I'm just going to tap it down. I'm just going to grab my hammer there, tap that down. And you got to make sure that that head rides below this ridge here. Otherwise, when you go to reinstall your drag stack, the pieces will fall out. About that drag stack now. These are size 60 washers. These washers are actually in pretty good shape. I'm going to put the hard washer back on, just making sure it's clean here. Same idea here. You want to make sure the inside of the gearing is clean. In this case, it really is. Then we've got these leather or fabric washers here. You want to test them. These are cracking, so we're going to replace those. And that's not unusual. And I think that's actually what Francisco wants to do with his. So I'm off camera again. I apologize. I'm just grabbing a bag of 60 washers here. Probably could have done a better job of organizing this. Here we go. And the 60s alternate. You have we're going to use the HC100s here. Putting these back together. And they alternate with a fabric washer. And we're going to fabric, metal, fabric, metal, fabric, metal. We know these are shot, so we can just get them off. Break them so that they don't find their way into some other reel sometime. And you just want to make sure that these are clean now. So again, these two are very clean on the inside. The one on the top here, we're going to use that piece of steel wool again to clean that up. Inside, these others are very clean. So I'm going to use some Cal's Universal Drag Grease. Dip the washer into that. Drop the washer onto the post, followed by the first of the round washers. I'm going to repeat that process again. Grab it, spread it, drop it in. Middle washer is an eared washer now. They go in the indentations of the main gear, so make sure you have those two tags inside. Last of the washers. Up top, finish. And then we have a cap washer here. This has got a little crud on it, so back to that steel wool one more time. And there's no, that crud isn't going to affect performance at all. It's simply there to push down onto that last washer. So you could skip it, but why bother, right? So, all right, so that's the top there. Our bridge is done. I'm going to set that aside. We have the yoke, the spool gear, the jack, and the eccentric and springs. So let's go ahead and move these over to the other reel. As well as more screw there. Okay, there's two pieces here that need to move. I believe the first one here is a 10 millimeter. There's a bearing that sits in the side plate. That's where the spool, end of the spool shaft comes in. Again, I'm just going to pretty that up. I got a new side plate over there. There's no sense putting something that's too terribly dirty in there. And I'm using the steel wool for that. And that goes right into the side plate here. Don't over tighten anything with these side plates, just make sure they're snug. Okay, we got the two springs that go to the yoke assembly with the spool gear. And actually before that, let's go over and take this eccentric off just so that I don't break the springs. I'm going to take the springs and put them back in my bucket so I know where to find them. That last piece of a broken washer out of there. I'm going to grab a screwdriver now. That's the wrong blade. Get the blade that's as close to the width of the screw as possible. And again, somebody put this one in and didn't know how to balance this, so they kind of flipped the lever backwards. See it all the time, unfortunately. Just going to take the spring that we have, transfer that. The spring goes to this side. Just clean off some the stuff. That seems to be the operative word here, is a lot of cleaning, right? In this process. This is my $3 reel with time spent. New side plates, you wouldn't do that. If this was just, if you didn't have them on hand, you wouldn't do that. I just have them. There's no demand for these anymore. It's so rare that folks have these things, so why not do that? And in the process, we're showing Francisco how to do his little service on this. So, okay, there's a hole inside the eccentric. The spring goes to that. Goes underneath. Balancing act here, you put the spring in and then the eccentric in. And if you can grab this from the outside using that key, go ahead and do that. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But this needs to move up. It's turning that the wrong way. Sometimes it's just as easy to grab it with the pliers. You have to be careful if you're grabbing it with the pliers. You don't want to booger up the stud there, so just be gentle with it. Keep wanting to turn it the wrong way. That's what's going on here at the moment. Unfortunately, this is something I've got to see with my own eyes here, unfortunately. And then find the high point. I just found the high point. The high point will enable you to flip the lever to the proper position. And then we can put that screw back in. And we're up for the eccentric pieces done. Free spool lever is done. Working the way it should. Now I'll come back and put the yoke assembly back in. It really is dust on this thing. Gee. Guess that's been sitting in a parts cabinet for some time now. Alright, two springs go on. Gonna make sure we have some lubrication. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease here for that bearing and also onto the eccentric so that slides nicely. I'm going to grab the spool gear and yoke, and this one again from sitting has got dried grease on it, but it's going to clean up right away with that steel wool. If you need to, again, you can use some of the penetrating oil, degreaser, to get that off of there. In this case it's coming off relatively easy, so there's no real need to go beyond this. Nice and shiny again where that equipment is going to turn. Check your spool gear right now. Make sure all those teeth are good and that they're not clogged. Go ahead and put some grease onto the teeth of that. Many of you will see that I'm not using a brush. I've gotten very tired of that brush. It's dropping hairs, and that's kind of why I haven't done the brushes to begin with, but like everybody else, I said I would give it a try. I did. I don't like the fact that the brush is losing hairs. And one of my viewers out there said try a lady's mascara brush. I may try that going forward, but right now I'm back to my trusty old screwdriver. No apologies. Okay, so here's the yoke assembly now. Centers on the two springs. Presses down. We grab that jack, which is... I'm trying to do this with one hand here, I guess, huh? Just clean off a little bit of that. There's some varnished grease on there. Nothing that's going to matter, but it doesn't hurt to get it off while we're doing it. Okay. Grab the jack, slip it over, and there we go. That's the bottom. The yoke, spool gear, jack, eccentric, spring. It's that time of day to put the bridge back in then. And grab the bridge. Again, a little bit of grease onto the main gear. And you don't have to get it in every tooth, just here and there. As it works its way around, it'll work itself into all the teeth. I'm going to press down on the spool gear again and put the main gear assembly in. I'm going to go for a fully threaded screw. Down below, I'm going to find that dog. Long side goes up, flat spring. Wrap it around the post like that. We've loaded the dog. We have the flat spring laying on top of the anti-reverse dog, around the post, onto the side. Again, laying on top of the dog, around the post, onto the side. Then you continue with the rotation then until you line that screw up with the hole in the bridge. And you tighten that screw a couple of turns just to get it caught. And we're not caught. There we go. I don't tighten them all the way down because you want to make sure that you have this even pressure on it. So go up to the top on the other side, sort of a northeast southwest. That one to grab. There we go. Partially threaded. Partially threadeds go up top. That's so that the spring doesn't catch on the spread on the threads. Get that one caught. Back down to the other side. Fully threaded. That's the bottom one. Has no spring riding on it. I guess that's what it was. So that first screw probably got stripped a little bit. I don't know how, but whatever the cause, remedied. And again, it's not a bad thing to save parts when you have a reel that breaks. Save the parts. That's how I wound up with the extra side plates. Okay, we should be good now. We're going to give it a test before we go too far. We're going to spin it. Good there. We're going to make sure it has an anti-reverse. It does. Back, put that sleeve in. Now, if we didn't take that gear sleeve off. We would put a drop of oil in there, but we've had the gear sleeve off, so that's not an issue here. I'm going to put the star drag adjuster on, and once I get it down a couple of turns, I like to put the handle on and use that to turn. It's better for me. I'm going to put a little bit of grease into the back bearing. We already put grease into the front bearing. Go ahead and put the spool in. I like to put a little bit onto the spool shaft because we haven't been inside the gear sleeve here. And put that on. Seat it into the frame here. We turn it so that the screw lines up with the hole. Tighten the screw down. Give it a spin. We're adjusting now. Put the main handle on. And there you go. We've rebuilt a 150. We've taken it from the junk pile at a $3 reel. We had a lot of spare parts laying around, so we made the frame pretty. We had a broken side plate, which is why it was in the bargain bin to begin with. And we had a spare one of those around, so we were able to take that off and get it so that we have this screw function now. And then the last part of this is just putting the handle in with the lock screw. And this one's going fishing. So a word that they're never really that far away from repairing. If you have a broken Penn reel and you have access to parts, the thing that usually gets them is what we saw here. There's a broken part on this, but also cosmetically. And now we've got a very pretty reel that's doing what it should be doing, and it even has some new side plates, some shinier chrome, even though it's not the new chrome, and it's running easy. Nice effective drags. This reel is good to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more. If you really want to see them, please subscribe. We're always anxious to find new subscribers. Thanks again.